Rev up your engines! Alright, electric motorcycle world, watch out. Honda's getting involved. They announced they're going to make 4 electric motorcycles in the next few years. They're starting out with smaller ones. Remember how Honda started out with small ones in the United States? Little 125cc's and stuff? And look what they ended up building? So, they're starting to get involved in the electric motorcycle wars now. If you remember, Honda recently promised that by 2040, the whole company would be 100% electric. They wouldn't make gas-powered vehicles now. That's like 19 years down the line. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? They're working on electric motorcycles now. And like I say, they're using their brains. They're not a stupid company. They're not starting out with giant monstrosities that can go super fast, but of course, a super fast motorcycle has no range on the highway. I've driven some that they claimed in the city had 140-mile range to stop and go and regenerate. But on the highway going 75 miles an hour, some of these things could only run for like 35, 40 minutes and they ran out of electricity. They're starting with the small ones, which makes the most sense. Just like they started with motorcycles. They started small and built up to big ones. And much to their credit, Honda's a very smart company, plan on making ones that all have universal swappable batteries. So instead of having to wait, you could have extra batteries and then you could put another battery in, or there'd be stations where you could just swap the battery out. That makes the most sense. You're going to sit there for 5 hours waiting for it to recharge? No. If they have universal batteries, you can just swap them out. That really makes the most sense for electric vehicles. Honda's getting into the fray for electric motorcycles, so if anybody does it right, I'd certainly think Honda would do it. Now, I really can't believe this one, but it's true. Benelli, which is an Italian company, is launching a new electric motor scooter called the Dong. I'm not making this up. The Dong. Of course, with the name The Dong, you can imagine where it's made. China, of course, because Benelli is now owned by Geely, that gigantic Chinese corporation. Obviously, they're using the name Benelli. It's got a famous name to sell these electric scooters, but to call them Dong, I mean, maybe they'll change their minds after Americans see it and start laughing their heads off, you know? Maybe they'll change it to Willie. People have lost their minds. Now these little things can go 36 miles. They're electric, so they don't have all that much range. It's an inner city type thing. So you can ride your dong around the inner city. I can't resist it. I can't resist. They're using 60 volts. You know, the higher the voltage, the more power you're going to get out of them. So it's not like it's 12 volt. It's 60. It's got a reasonable amount of voltage behind it. Now, the dong's top speed is only 28 miles an hour. So you're not going that fast on one of these dongs. And one of the reasons they go that slow is because at that speed, you don't need a special motorcycle license in Europe. A lot of things are made just to fit in for certain laws. That's why they go a certain speed or have a certain amount of power. Like in Europe, if you have motorcycles over 600cc, I guess they tax the heck out of them. So they got a lot of 600cc motorcycles that can go really fast, and that's why they built them that way. And the dong isn't particularly cheap. It's $2,500. So you want a $2,500 dong? I think some people would buy it just to be riding around a thing that says dong. I'm riding my dong. Kyle2445 says, is the Honda Jazz a girl's car? I know the Jazz is very reliable, but I don't know about a car which is targeted for women. No hate, but you know, I'm a dude. Things are targeted for all kinds of things. Okay, take a Mazda Miata. A lot of people say, oh, that's a girly car. You know, a little bitty convertible, looks like a baby buggy type thing. But it depends on what you're doing with it. You could put a supercharger on a Miata, make it a very fast little car. There's all kinds of things you could do. Take the basic Honda Jazz, a transportation device. And you know, they're making it little and cute for women and stuff, and that's what they want, but you get what you see. It's a Honda. It's well designed. The engine and transmission are excellent. What it looks like on the outside, that's in the eye of the beholder, you know? Take like the Kia Soul, okay? I think it's one of the ugliest cars ever made. Some people love the styling of the thing. Back in the day, a lot of people love Volvos because they look like boxes. There's some people, Swedes included, they like boxy looking things, all right? So, they think that's good looking and they like it. Now, the old Volvos, the boxy ones anyways, were very reliable, but, you know, they were boxy looking. And as for the Jazz itself, hey, it's whatever you want to make it into, you know? If you don't like the style, get something else. Me, if I wanted a dependable little car like that, I would have no qualms about buying a Honda Jazz. They're well made, you know? They're a smaller car, but, hey, I can't say that they're made for women. They're obviously targeting women, but they're targeting anybody that wants a smaller car like that for transporting stuff around. It's going to be dependable. So, you know, it all depends what you want, you know? I mean, if you want to really look macho, go get a GTO or a Dodge Hellcat or something. Scott. Matthew says, hello Scotty. Did I make the right decision for our first family vehicle? Recently, I purchased a 2009 Chevy Suburban 1500 4x4 automatic transmission, 5.3 liter engine with 147,000 miles. I paid $12,500. It's clean, has a little rust on the back. I can get it fixed. Is it a good deal? Granted, back in 2009, they're somewhat better made than they were today. If it would have been a 99 or 2000, 2001, it would be tons better made than today. 2009, you're getting kind of to the point where, yeah, they're starting to get not as well built as they used to be. Of course, you paid way too much, 147,000 miles for a 13-year-old Suburban. Got all that mileage on it. It's too much money. But that's the price of things today. Now, only time's going to tell if you got a good deal, because with those things, generally, at that kind of mileage, the transmission's going to go out, or the rear end. You want to pray they don't baby it. Don't drive like a maniac. And it is 4x4. So if your transmission does go out, the price of repairing that 4x4, whew, and here's some advice. Let's say you don't need four-wheel drive. Don't put it in four-wheel drive if you don't have to, because it's only going to wear out faster. And then you're going to have a big rat's nest. So if you don't have to use it, don't use it. Just use the regular rear-wheel drive on it, and you'd be a lot better off than you would trying to push it. Keep your fingers crossed. I wouldn't have bought that vehicle, but you have, and you're stuck with it. Take care of it, baby it, and especially baby the transmission. Don't use the four-wheel drive system unless you absolutely have to, because when that stuff does break, it costs a fortune to repair. And that's kind of the mileage, around 150,000. That's often when the transmissions go out on those things. Hopefully, maybe the previous owner had the transmission rebuilt. You might try to look into it, see if they had the transmission rebuilt, and then it might last quite some time. Charles 35 says, how can I fix my gear shift lever? I got a 96 Toyota T100 with an automatic transmission, and my column shifter, sometimes I put it in park, then it won't start, and I have to kind of wiggle around and it starts. It's annoying. What can I do? All right, well, pray it's not the gear shift assembly itself, the park neutral shifter, because that costs a fortune. But here's what it normally is. There's a part called the transmission range sensor. When you put that up and down, it goes down the cable to the transmission, and on the transmission is a transmission range sensor. Those can wear so that when you put it in park, the sensor isn't clicked into park. Sometimes they need a new cable, or sometimes they're just worn and need replacing. But in quite a few of them, you can slot where the bolts hold them in. You can make them a little slotty, loosen the bolts. Then you can adjust a little so that if it doesn't go into park right so it starts, you turn it one way or the other, and then if that closes the switch so you can get power that you're in park to go through to the starter and start the car, that can fix the problem. More often on Toyota, transmission range sensor, they're not the actual shift assembly itself. It's not as bad as you might think it could be. Norman 23 says, I got a rust issue on my 07 Explorer. On my Explorer, I noticed the right rear door panel above the tire, there's rust flaking off. Should I knock it off and paint it, touch it up, let it dry, and then spray it with clear coat rust proofer? And he's got a picture. And in the picture, right above the tire, you can see it's actually rotted through right around the fender flare. All right, that's typical for Fords. You got a serious problem there in terms of rust if you want it to look good. It's rusted the whole way through in parts. You basically would have to cut off that whole section, weld in new metal, paint it with primer, and then paint it with paint, and then seal it with clear coat. A gigantic job to do correctly. It's a 14-year-old Explorer. I don't know how far you want to go. Look around the rest of the vehicle. You'll probably find it starting to rust all the other ones too, in which case it'd be foolhardy to spend all that kind of money. Now, if you don't care not being perfect and it lasts a while, cut out the really rotten parts, get a wire brush on a drill, make it shiny metal again, and then fiberglass it from the inside backwards, and then sand it down, then use a little Bondo and paint it. It's not going to last forever because it'll keep rotting in other parts, but you can do a decent thing that might last a few years that way. To fix it right, you gotta cut all the old rotten rust off, weld in new metal. It's a real job to do right. Zoom says, I got a 2012 Mazda 3 with a ticking noise. At the risk of asking too many questions, I wanna know, is this normal for my engine? Here's a video, and I can hear the engine ticking. Yeah, it's lifter tick. Mazda's notorious for that. They have somewhat cheaper hydraulic lifters in them, and over the ages, the Mazda engines have had lots of lifter ticking problems. And in order to fix them, so you got a 4-cylinder engine, okay? 4 valves per cylinder, right? 16 of these lifters. You'd have to replace them all to make sure the noise would not come back. With that mileage on an old car, it's really not worth doing. As long as it runs okay, you don't get any trouble codes, I would personally live with it. I wouldn't go any further. The Mazdas always were a little bit weak with lifter ticker noise. Now, I don't hear it on the later model ones. Since they've been dealing with Toyota, they seem to be building better engines. But through history, Mazdas, as they age, often have lifter ticking noises because they got rather small lifters. They're kind of tiny. And they do have a tendency of wearing out and making noise. But, like I say, some of them, they can go years that way. As long as it runs, what the heck? You want to spend a ton of money rebuilding that thing, it's really not worth it if it runs okay. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.